Hey, welcome back to Stitches. So it's been a couple weeks and my dishcloth is almost done. How's yours going? Is it ready to cast off? I'm going to show you how to do that today. It's not very hard, and then you will have a dishcloth all ready to use. Isn't that awesome? Let's get started. All right, for your project today, you are going to need three things. Obviously, you need your knitted project, your dishcloth, and the needles that you've been using. I'm going to count that as one thing, although I guess technically it's two. You will need a needle. This is just a yarn needle. And so we will need that because we're going to sew in our ends after we cast off. And a pair of scissors. That's it. So the first thing we are going to do is I'm going to show you what to do to know that you are ready to cast off. We are trying to get a square-ish dishcloth. So to check to see if I am ready, I just make a triangle. So I come down, and it may not be perfect, and that's okay. I'm going to try to square that up a little bit because otherwise it's going to stretch weird. And once that basically makes a triangle, I know that I have knit enough rows and I'm ready to cast off. So if yours looks like a triangle, then you are also ready to cast off. So to start with, we will knit 2 stitches. We're going to be doing a lot of knitting on our cast off. So we're going to take our first one and we're going to slip that one. If you've been slipping all along, then go for it. If you normally knit that first stitch, then go ahead and knit it. Next up, we will knit. Now, at this point, we're going to put our needle under the stitch farthest on, just like this. We want it through the loop. We do not want to go between the loops, through the loop. And I'm going to use my finger here to kind of support things so nothing falls off that I don't want, and just want to take that one stitch over the other stitch and off the needle, just like that. Now I have one stitch on my needle. So now I'm going to knit, and again I'm going to stick my needle through, right through the front of the loop and over the loop, the other loop, and over the needle. Knit, put my needle through the loop, over, just like that. And I'm going to continue doing this until I get to the end of the row. So just keep knit one stitch and then you're going to cast it off. So it goes right over. And as you can see, we are starting to get our nice cast off edge. All right, here we are at the end. So now we're going to take that last stitch over. And now you just have one loop left. So at this point, I am going to trim it. Now I want to give myself a bit of an end. It is easier to work with a longer end than a short end, so I'd rather it be a little too long than too short. I'm going to cut that. And at this point, I'm going to just flatten this out so that it kind of goes. I don't really want to twist it, but honestly, it does not really matter that much. And then my end is going to go through, and I'm going to pull it tight. And it is cast off. And there is the edge. It'll look a little different than this edge, but they're kind of still somewhat similar. That is how you cast off. So we're going to set our needles aside because we are done with them for now until our next project. So next up, you need your sewing needle. This is a yarn needle, and these are my favorite kind, but there's lots of different ones. I like the little curved edge right here, but it is not necessary. I just like it. So we're going to thread it first. Now, I hate having wet yarn and wet thread, so I don't like to lick my ends to make sure that everything is going the right direction to thread it. So instead, I loop it over my needle and then I just pull it, and that gets everything just nice and neat. And then I just push it through, just like that. So from here, now what we want to do is, your first question is, since this is garter stitch, either side can be the front and the back. So since this is your first project, you might have one side that you think looks better than the other side. And if that's the case, then the side that looks nicer, count that as your front. And the side that you're like, oh, that looks a little weird there, that'll be your back. So we want to work on our back side, whatever side that is. So to start with, we are going to be going through and around. So I'm going to take my yarn and we're going to follow this loop. It's actually 2 stitches there, and it will help you, it'll kind of match. And I'm going to do mine in white so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to take it, and of course we're first going to need to get the stitch down where we want it. So I'm just going to stick mine right through there. Now you will pull yours tight, but of course if I pull mine tight, this is just going to come out. So we're going to pretend. And I'm just going to start going down. So I'm going to go through this loop and this loop. And I'm going to pull that. And now this is going to loop around, and I'm going to go back through the one I already had. Just like that. And then through. And I just want to pull it tight enough that it kind of blends in. I don't want it loopy, and I also don't want it too tight. If I pull it really tight, it becomes more noticeable. So I just want it comfortably tight, but not too tight. And then I'm just going to keep going back and forth. So I'm following. And right now you might be like, what are you following? The more you do it, the easier it'll be to see. This works really well on garter stitch. You can do this with just a stockinette where you have everything's purl on one side and everything's knit on the other, but you'll actually do it a little shorter. So we're just going back and forth. And again, I'm just trying to follow that imaginary line back and forth. I'm going to do a bit more. And the reason why we weave in our ends is because that way our project doesn't fall apart. So some people like to just tie a knot at the end, and that's basically what this is right here. And then they just cut it short. And sometimes, often, the yarn will work itself out of that little knot, and then you have this teeny tiny short piece of yarn, and you can't even really put it on a needle to reweave it in again. So those are really hard to fix if something goes wrong. This is such a long end that if anything goes wrong, you'll be able to fix it, and chances are you will not need to. My dishcloths wear out long before my ends pop out. I don't think I've had that problem with a dishcloth. So I'm just going to do a couple more stitches, and then this end will be done. Mine is, of course, somewhat imaginary because this is not the right color. So I'm going to come down. Now, at this point, you could clip it right here if you'd like, and that will be fine. It might pop out of here, though. So here's what I like to do to finish. I can't do this on every project, but it works really well on this. I'm going to take my needle, and I'm going to go through. There's kind of a tunnel that we just created, right? Because we have the stitches here, and then, of course, we have the stitches over here. So I'm just taking my needle between them. I'm not going through. I don't want it popping out this side, and you can flip it around the other side. Make sure that you haven't. I'm just going to pop it through like this. And then I'll pull it. And then I'm going to pull it a little bit tight, and I will trim it. And then I'll pull that a little bit. And now it'll be all tucked in, and it'll kind of disappear. And that is how you weave in your end. Except, of course, you're going to weave in the end of the project and not some other random color. When you finish this one, then you're going to want to weave in your other end. And once you have done that, you will have a completed dishcloth. Good job! You have done awesome, and congratulations on finishing your first project. I'm so proud of you.